Today, episode 66, we're talking about the local church, the global church, where that's found throughout Scripture. But also on the music side, I see a CD from one of my favorites, Alison Krauss. I think we're talking about that too.
A little bit.
In our continuing exploration into music. So,
Yes.
episode 66 of the Deep Dives. I'm looking forward to it.
Josh, I have in my hand Alison Krauss and Union Station Live.
Yes, one of my favorite CDs of all time.
No.
And I was excited when I saw that because I thought we were talking because we've been talking about like Van Halen and
Right.
all these, which are great. Mm-hmm. They're no Alison Krauss. even though Alison Krauss has done a lot of collaboration with Robert Plant, who we've
Yes.
been talking about lately.
That's right, with Led Zeppelin. She, so in all honesty, I've listened to 5 songs of this. I borrowed this from my mother, and I listened on the way here. I listened to 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm on the 5th song, "Bright Sunny South," and she's sang on one song.
Okay.
And this is
Yeah, that's because it's a collaboration.
It's a
album.
collaboration.
Yeah. Like Alison Krauss and Union Station, they've been collaborating for years.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty much just synonymous. They're collectively known as ACUS, AKUS.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Alison Krauss, Union Station, and
Gotcha.
so like Union Station does stuff on their own. Also, some of the members of Union Station, like Ron Block, Dan Tyminski,
Okay.
they do solo stuff too. Alison Krauss does solo stuff and collaborates with other people, but like her most famous probably collaboration is ongoing stuff she does with Union Station.
Union Station. I honestly, when I think Alison Krauss, I think Union Station. I do. It's almost like they're one band, Alison Krauss and Union Station.
Yeah.
But I said that to say this. I'm fine with that because whoever, I don't know the band well enough. You obviously know it better than me, but whoever is singing, they're so good. And
Probably Dan Tyminski.
Dan Tyminski.
Yeah.
And Jerry Douglas plays the dobro.
Yep.
And if you don't know
one of my favorite dobro players
this
of all
guy
time.
is so good. If you don't know what a dobro is, it's a guitar with a big metal thing on the front.
Yep. Looks like a big hubcap.
It does, and you can play it. I guess you can play it like a guitar, but you can play it flat also. And
It's
like
kind of like the acoustic version of the steel guitar.
that's right,
Yeah.
and it's played the same with a slide, and it has such.
And the strings are way high off the neck, so you're not.
Are they really? Okay.
Yeah, you're not like pushing them up against
Okay,
frets.
okay.
You're using the
You
slide.
just slide.
Yeah.
And the sounds he gets, just the 4 songs I've listened to, the sounds he gets out of that. The whole album starts with his solo.
Yeah.
And it sounds like many instruments, but with that dobro undertone.
Yeah.
You know, he goes way high, but it's not a high. It's
You
just
get so much emotion out of the dobro.
Man, oh man, it was so good. She introduced him by saying something like, whenever we first heard him, we knew he was the best dobro player on the planet, is what she said. And he started playing, and I haven't heard all the dobro players, but I'd be surprised if anybody was.
Right.
I don't know how much better you can get at an instrument than what he has done. But man, so good, so good. It does. And listen, you don't have to like bluegrass or country or anything to like or to appreciate what I've heard so far from this album.
Right.
So good.
Yeah, they all have roots in bluegrass.
I don't doubt it.
But like Alison Krauss was classically trained on the violin. But so they all have like their roots in bluegrass, but that's not to say that this is a bluegrass album.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a good music album.
It is a good music album. And bluegrass flavor, maybe, just the voices and the way that they use their voices in order to go up and down the scale. How about this? This is what everybody will relate to. Constant Sorrow, that song.
From Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, I think that's the second song on here. If I'm not,
Which, by the way, in that movie, it looks like George Clooney is singing. He
Yeah.
was lip syncing. That
Right.
was Dan Tyminski's voice.
That was Dan Tyminski. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was his. When I heard him started singing this, I went, "Well, that's definitely they're not copying this. This is exactly who sang this song."
Yep.
And so that's the popularity of that song. That type of music is what you would hear in the 4 songs that I've heard. I'm assuming that everything is consistent. It's a 2-disc. Yeah, 2-disc.
Yep. Alison Krauss sang a lot of music in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" as well.
Oh, she did. I don't remember that. I have to
Yep.
watch that again.
Like the song "Down the River to Pray."
Mm-hmm.
That was Alison Krauss. I think Julian Welch and someone else as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. She has been blessed with such a voice
Yes.
and such great talent, and she's not very hard to look at either. By the way, she's an attractive woman,
And she's also outspoken about her faith as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Don't doubt it.
One of her first CDs was a gospel collaboration.
Oh, I
with
bet she's
the
great
Cox
at
family.
that.
Yeah.
When I say good look, I mean she's very classic look. She's like a mother. You know what I mean? Like somebody that you would respect, and I mean,
Yeah.
that's beauty to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you guys. You guys like to, I'm just kidding. Nobody's wife's here or listens, so I can say. No.
Which is ironic because just this past week, my wife said, I should probably listen to one of yours. Thanks, Destry.
Yeah, tell her to start next week. No, well, I mean, for example, she's wearing she looks like she's dressed to go to church. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, that's beauty to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's you're not going to be able to see this on that, but maybe you can. Anyway.
One of my favorite duets of all time is her and Vince Gill.
Oh, yeah.
Those two voices match really well.
You're right.
And there's this video on YouTube of the two of them when you come around.
Mm-hmm.
Such a beautiful song, and it has the dobro in the back as well. It's
Okay.
just, like subtly kind of asserting its presence.
Mm-hmm. Right. It can be up front or in the background and be as powerful, can it?
Yep.
It is soft. It's not a picking sound like in maybe jazz or whatever. There's not a lot of that. It just it flows.
Yeah.
I guess the slide has a lot to do with that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it just one note to another just kind of
Yeah,
flows.
because you can get sort of that, that sort of like, you know, so one of my favorite songs of all time that Alison Krauss does is a gospel song called "A Living Prayer."
Okay.
And it's like the main line of it is, "Take my life and let it be a living prayer, my God, to Thee."
Oh, nice.
Such a beautiful lyric,
It's
and
a
the way she
poem.
sings it, such a beautiful song. I recommend everybody listen to that.
What's it called again?
A Living Prayer.
A Living Prayer. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, before we get to, you going to talk about God today?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm also going to see her in concert in May. Taking my wife to that.
Oh, fantastic.
At the Wharf.
At the Wharf,
Yep.
outdoor theater?
Yep.
Oh, that's going to be good. To me, it seems like this is the kind of band that is just as good, if not better, live than in the studio.
Oh, it's amazing! We've already seen her once
Okay.
in concert, and it was funny because we brought my daughter too, who at the time wasn't necessarily into bluegrass style music.
How old
Even
was she?
she enjoyed it. I think she was probably 12 or something
Okay.
at the
All right.
time. Yeah.
Old enough to be her own person sitting there enjoying the music.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really cool? So, as my daughter's taste in music has grown over the years, she's a freshman in college now. But she starts sending me like links to songs that
Oh,
she
yeah.
likes, and she's starting to get into more of the folk style.
How about that?
Like one of the ones that the three of us have in common is the Red Clay Strays.
Yes.
She turned me on to that band.
Okay, that's right. You just told me that when I turned it on to you. You said, "Yeah, your
yeah.
daughter told you."
I'm like, I've heard of them.
Red Clay Straits too. Man, that's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I listened to them yesterday when I was mountain biking a little bit. Listened
Yep.
to them, just doing their thing. Man, it was
Yeah.
really good music.
So when when we were talking about like the role of music in our lives, I asked you the question like, do you listen to music to change your mood, or do you listen to music that already like it's reflects the mood that you're already
Yes.
in. And you answer that differently than I would. You listen to music that reflects the mood you're in. And I guess
Right.
I do that to an extent. But there's sometimes when I'm just stressed and I need to just decompress or
Right.
whatever, that I use music a lot of times to help with that. And one of my go-tos is Alison Krauss.
Okay.
And often one of my go-tos is A Living Prayer by Alison
Okay.
Krauss.
All right.
But just, in general,
That brings you to a place that's comfortable.
I love the music that she sings in Union Station and other collaborators that she's worked with. And I use that as okay, I need to just
That's
calm
good.
down a little bit. This will help me do that.
That's great to have that as a tool you can use to do that. Josh, I got something to show you.
Okay.
Okay, so we've also talked about my photography jobs in the past, and one of them was a mountain bike race a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. So I use this website called SmugMug. So I take pictures and I edit them, get them all the way that I like them, and I upload them to SmugMug, and then I put them on sale.
Right.
And many times, for each time I do a job, I buy one or two for myself to use in my portfolio, or to put in a frame and put on a table where I'm in the event where I'm selling pictures, right? So I got a couple of those today. I got them in a couple days ago, and
Okay.
put one in my portfolio, and I think one's not framed yet. But I wanted to show those just to show some of the things we've been talking about.
Right.
All right, so this is the portfolio. My lovely niece Emily gave me this for Christmas. She knows I love Carolina blue. This is the closest to Carolina blue that.
Right.
So this is what I'm using for the portfolio, and this is one of the pictures.
Yes.
Of this teenage girl. I say teenage girl because she was racing. Is that looking okay? Okay. So you can see the light coming
Right.
on. I call her the Golden Girl
Okay.
because she's got gold, kit, and she's got some hair that's lit up by the light and all that. I love.
She did travel down that road and back again.
She did. And
Most people probably won't get that reference.
she's actually the oldest one. You didn't know it. She looks like the
Oh, okay.
oldest one. No. So I love this picture. You can't see her eyes. She's got golden glasses on. I just think she looks really cool. You know what I mean? And if this is me or my daughter, I'd like to have a picture of this. If this is her, for sure. So I got it printed, and it's printed on. There's 3 levels you can get it printed. You can't tell on TV, or you can't really tell unless you really look at it. This is high quality print. If you look on the side of it, it's got a sheen to it that other pictures don't have, and it just shines. So I use gloves because you could see the fingerprints if you put it on here. So anyway, that's one of them. And by the way, what I like about this is that you don't know where she is in the lineup, right? You don't know if
Right.
she's leading, if she's in the back, or if she just fell and got back up. You don't know where she is, and that's what you have to keep in mind whenever you're doing things for sports. It's good to get a picture of an event like Babe Ruth's home run, whatever record here. It's awesome to be able to see, I got a picture of that. This is that shot.
Right.
But it's also just as valuable to get action shots of everybody.
Yeah.
Somebody could be hitting. I've got a picture of a guy. The ball is hitting the bat, and you can see the ball is concave. It's got a little bit of it's a little blurry, but it's right. The second that the ball hit the bat, I've got that picture, and I know he wants that. He wants that picture, or that pit. Yeah, he wants that picture, but that second didn't mean anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think I don't even remember if it was an out, if he got on first base. It doesn't matter. But that second in time could be anywhere, could be at any time. Anyway, so as a sports photographer, you got to remember those things. You're not looking for just the You're not looking for the time. You're looking for any time that's important. A third baseman catching a ball, having to stretch off the base to get it, to get a third out or a first out. It doesn't matter who, where, when. Capturing that second in time is important.
Right. I think that's one of the interesting things about photography too, is like it's not as reliant on context as other things are.
That's right.
Like an action shot where you see a ball, zooming towards the catcher's glove or whatever. In that moment, that looks spectacular. It could be that in the split second afterwards, he missed it. It was a horrible thing, but in that one moment, pulled out of context, it looks awesome.
It does.
And it could be awesome. It could be not awesome.
That's exactly right.
The other thing that that strikes me about that picture in particular, so I'm sure Chris will blur out the name on it on the video if it's visible. But I noticed the name of it because right now it's Friday morning. We're at my office during business hours. My phone is getting blasted with texts for two reasons. One, it's during business hours, and another, it's Pi Day, March 14th. And so everybody who's a friend of mine and knows I
woke up with some sensation. I forgot what it is. Pi Day.
I'm getting texts and messages from people about Pi Day, but one of the clients that just texted me just a few minutes ago has the same last name as that.
I love that last name.
That cyclist.
Right. I love that last name. I mean, how can you not like that last name? That's a good point, because I showed this showed these pictures in Camera Club, which we meet once every month. Chris is in Camera Club, and Chris's wife is in Camera Club. 4 or 5 other devoted people are there. We've been meeting for a little over a year now, and almost 2 years. Wow, 2 years, and almost the same people are there every month. Right? It's a small group, but I've always said, it's changed a little bit now, but I've always said in the 12 years I've been doing ministry is that I don't care how many people are there. If they're there consistently, we'll continue on. And that's the way I still feel about Camera Club, because they are dedicated to this. Anyway, one of the ladies brought up a good point. They said, her picture, her name is in it. Are you overstepping some boundaries? I said, I don't think so, because her name is she is out there with thousands of people. She's riding around with her name, everybody's name. It's obviously not an issue, you know what I mean? But it's a fair question,
right?
I do feel a little odd showing it with her name, but here's another thing about photography. This is my property. It's intellectual property, and with SmugMug, you can claim that. You can put a mark on it and say, this is my property. Now, I can, if somebody downloads, that's why my downloads are so expensive. If you download a photo, you've bought a part of that property.
Right.
You've bought the right to do whatever you want to do with that picture. That's why my downloads are expensive. People ask me, my goodness, all I want to do is download a photo. You're going to charge me $14 to do that? I said, it's a steal.
Yeah.
Because I'm giving you part ownership of this picture.
I remember I was trying to get a photo that I had taken, blown up and printed at a Walmart Photoshop or whatever.
Yeah.
And and they refused to do it because they wanted a copyright statement, which I guess I kind of took as a compliment, because the quality of my inexperience was at least to a point where the guy at Walmart thought it was
somebody might own this thing.
Yeah, maybe behind a copyright or something. So
that's a good compliment.
I literally just pulled up Word and typed one out.
Is that right?
All right, we'll print it.
Cool.
This is my picture, and I give myself permission to print it out.
I gotta say, I know that sounds like a pain, and it is, but I'm glad he did that. But,
right.
The truth is, the next guy, if you'd have get there 5 minutes later and another employee was there, they probably wouldn't have done that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or if I do bring in a professional photo and they ask for that, there's really not that much difficulty in just printing something out.
Sure, I own it.
Yeah, my name is Olin Mills.
Yeah, that's right. By the way, great YouTube channel. You want to see something funny?
My friends call me Oli.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, okay. So a portfolio is a picture, a group of pictures of your best work. All right. And this is a work in progress. So these two first ones are sports, and this is a friend of mine, Michael McBrien, and this guy is I used to ride with him. He was a lot faster than me, but we rode together and trained together. He's got a body like a small tank. You can kind of, I did barely, there's barely any editing to this photo. And if you look close, you can see anything. It looks like I took his muscle tone and put some shadows on it and all that stuff, but I did nothing to it. This is all who he is. And he won this, this was last year in a national competition in Pensacola, Milton, Florida. And I was standing on a ladder on the outside of the track, and I looked down and I took his picture. And this is, if you're going to teach somebody to skate, you want to look at this picture and you want to say, this is what your form needs to look like. So anyway, to me, that's a really, in the shadow and everything, really good. Blue Angels. You see Blue Angels. You see one Blue Angel. You've seen one Blue Angel.
Right.
So here's the difference also. You see a picture like this, right? And you go, yeah, seen it, done it, move on.
Right.
But when you have captured that picture yourself,
It means something totally different.
It's a totally different ball game.
It's difficult to capture that picture too because they're going fast. There's a lot. I remember because I went to the Blue Angels with you.
Yeah.
We were standing on the lighthouse, and it's difficult getting those planes.
This was one of the sneak attacks.
Yeah.
So what they do is you're on top of the lighthouse, and here's right in front of you, however many 100 yards, or in front of you is the flight line, and they're doing their thing over here. 4 of them sneak back here while these things are doing, while they're doing their teammates are over here, and they go right behind you.
And it's loud.
Man, it startles you.
One of the other photographers that was there, one of the most famous shots of the Blue Angels is when they're flying straight at you, and they all take off at different angles, and like a 4 points or whatever. And he got that picture, and as soon as he got that picture, he looked at us. He's like, I've been trying, I think he said, for 4 years to get that picture. And this is the first time I've been able to do it successfully. Every other time, something's gotten in the way. Either a bird flew by, or someone else stepped in front of the camera, or the focus wasn't right, or something. So he was super excited.
Josh, I want to just say this. I got lucky. I got that picture the first time I was on top of I got that picture. Did I show it to you?
Yeah.
You seen it?
Oh yeah.
It is a beautiful picture. I mean, it just looks like you have placed them here, right, and one down on and the smoke is showing out the back. Yeah. And with a little bit of editing, you make that smoke look different colors. It's a beautiful shot. It is. Yeah. I'm glad he finally got that. That was good. I was lucky to get it the first. I didn't know that's what they were going to do.
What was funny, you're succumbing a little bit to the heights of the lighthouse.
Oh my gosh!
And I remember at one point you were sort of leaning against the wall, the outside wall of the lighthouse,
the inside wall.
Yeah,
I wasn't
the inside. And not against the rail, but against the lighthouse itself. And you were standing right next to this big metal strap that was going down. And I told you afterwards, I'm like, that is when lightning hits it. That's where the current goes through. He's like, glad you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, glad I didn't know that before. Yeah, because you were on the other. I was on this side of it. You were on the other side of it. Yeah. We're like 2 feet apart. That thing is sticking right down. I am glad. That's funny.
That strap goes all the way down to the ground.
Thanks, Josh. Glad you came. Okay. This is the last one I'm going to show. So I got 2 sports so far, and I've got the Blue Angels, and this is a portrait that I took of this girl.
Gotta go up. Chris is directing us.
So I don't know what her name is, but I was at an event for veterans that are transitioning from military life to civilian life. And I volunteered to take headshots for their LinkedIn or whatever in order to for them to get employed. And there was a line, and people were coming up, and I'd take a couple shots. Good, all right, good. And I'll tell them how they're going to get their shots and everything. That's it. And
They
she
can download them for $12.
it was for free for them. It was free for them. $24 for military.
Right.
No, it was free for them. So she was at the end of the line. She came up, and I saw her, and I said, "What a cute girl!" You know, she was dressed really nicely and nice dark hair and everything. And I think she was with her husband or boyfriend or brother or whomever. A nice, cute couple. She got in front of the camera, and I looked through the lens, and it was, my gosh, she's beautiful. And it was, isn't that funny how sometimes, and I've heard that before, but this is really one of those times that I've experienced, one of the first times I've experienced where I've seen somebody and thought, I bet they'd take a good picture. But as soon as I put my eye up against the camera, I went, man, oh man, she's very photogenic. I took about 45 pictures of her smiling.
Right.
And I said, okay. I said, if you don't mind, just give me a flat look, a not smile.
Yeah.
And I got some of her.
I really like how you put it on the black background like that.
There was a black background there already, and the way I edited it is I melted the background into her hair, or her hair into the background.
Yeah.
And I brought up her. This is not much different than the regular picture. But I brought out her eyes, and if you can't see it on the video, I'm sure, but her eyes are kind of like a bright, hey, what color would you say her eyes are?
I am colorblind. Green? Brown?
Let's take a guess. Red. She's got red eyes.
Kind of a brown green.
Kind of a brown green.
Isn't hazel the word that people
I think
associate
that's
with pretty
right.
much every color?
They look grayish hazel,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
So I brought.
I agree.
I 100% know that, Josh, but I forget. You know.
My wife still does that.
Oh, gosh.
We've been married for almost 23 years.
So you're trying to be funny? Is that it? Trying to be funny, making fun of my color blindness. All right. I brought out her eyes just a little bit and brought down melted her shirt and her hair into the background. And I was wondering if that worked. And I think it does. And I've asked other people if they think it works, because I just wanted her face to. And by the way, she's got these cute little tattoos everywhere too. And at the very bottom, can you see what that is?
It's a Hello Kitty.
It's a Hello Kitty.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, what an interesting contrast.
Right.
Here is a veteran, a young girl veteran that has transitioned out. I have no idea what she's seen. You know, if she's seen been in combat, what type of environment she's in, but she's at this this event, and she's probably more mature than I'll ever be, and she's got a little Hello Kitty thing prominently on her shirt. Wow, I don't know why, I just think that's so interesting, the combination of the childlike nature of her and her experience in the military and going into life. To me, that's a story that I know, and whenever I show my portfolio to people that are looking at hiring me, I may have an opportunity to share that story.
Right.
So that's why I kept the Hello Kitty in it. I could have very well cropped it, you know what I mean? But I thought, you know what, I like that. I like it. It's kind of neat. But anyway, there's that, and I got some other extras and one dog. This is too green. I got to edit it, but I like the content. Is that right? I like the content.
Yep.
This dog is a drug dog. Actually, this dog came to the church, and she is a ammunitions dog. So this dog can smell out ammo, not guns.
I need a dog like that.
Ammo. And I know, right? I need a dog to smell out
Ammo's
cheap
expensive.
ammo.
Yeah.
Inexpensive ammo. We go by Walmart. District. $19, man.
Get him, girl. Get him, girl.
Anyway, so when I first met this dog, I was carrying, and I was taking the pictures, and I went up to her handle, and I said, so, just say somebody was carrying.
Right.
And she said, if she's working, she won't do that if she's not working. Right? I said, okay, I just wondered. Guy over there just asked me, wanted to know.
No reason.
That's okay, whatever. But anyway, I like that picture, and Bonnie. Bonnie is one of my good friends too, and she's very photogenic. And I take her picture every time I see her, so I like that. I'm going to get the green out of it. Can you see the? It's AJ Green. That's what it is.
I can see something.
I can see the
Maybe
dog.
it's green. Maybe it's not.
Let me show one more picture, okay? And we'll get off of me. Let's see here.
This is going to build to a segue to what we're talking about
Yes,
in
it
Bible
is.
study. Pictures.
So you got to go through all this boring
think.
stuff in order to. So this is one that I took of the same mountain bike race, but I couldn't. The aspect ratio was such that I couldn't get an 8x10 for the portfolio, so I had to get it on 8x12, I think it is. But I'm going to put this in a frame. I love this picture. Also, you can't really see. It probably looks like, oh, good, the guy's on a mountain bike. Mm-hmm. But there's so many aspects of this picture that I was trying to get that I got that I was really, really happy with it. So, number one, I was shooting in 2.4, which means you've got a very, very low rate of success.
That's the focal length
That's
of the lens?
that's the f-stop.
F-stop.
So it's a shallow depth of field.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, in other words, this picture, you're not going to be able to see it, but this picture is focused on his eyes, and you can see his knees may not be in focus. Mm-hmm. So if you think about
It's not
it,
in the same plane, vertical plane.
it's a different plane. That's right. Mm-hmm. So you've got about this much room to get in focus. If you land that and you get it, it's an awesome picture. But there's a lot of failure there also.
Yeah.
It was successful.
This is why photographers shoot in like explode mode or whatever it's called, where it's like.
Yep, rapid fire. And I was doing that here.
Yeah.
I was doing that here. But I was able to get everything. The back wheel certainly is not in focus. The front wheel is not in focus. The rider is in focus. And I got the entire bike, and it's close enough to where you can see his nameplate is clear. His nameplate is not clear on this one. But his face is, and that's the most important thing. And not as important because he's wearing goggles, but around that area, you want to get in focus.
I'm digging the small picture in the back, which is the mock cone on a F-18 Blue Angel flying.
The what now? Oh, yes. I'll show that one.
This is the picture I'm looking at.
Get through it, District. Come on. So this one is. You saw this live, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not a good quality picture, but the content is what I'm in a. My goal is to get a picture like this as clear as this.
Right.
I haven't done it yet. So, Josh, would you explain what we're looking at here?
Yeah, as the air goes across the plane wing, actually the plane body.
And this is at the event that we were all at the Blue Angels in Pensacola, Florida, Naval Station, Air Station.
So the pressure of the air changes as it goes across the body of the plane, and you reach a point where you're going so fast that water vapor condenses in an instant in that, and it's usually right around the time they break Mach 1.
Okay.
It can be, it can happen at other times too, but usually that's sort of an indication he's about to break the sound barrier.
Okay.
But
About to break the sound barrier.
this happens around projectiles too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, supersonic.
Of course. Okay. So they do that on purpose, of course, and it's just one plane goes from left to right where we usually are, and it's not very far from the ground. How far would you say? 20?
Yeah, probably 20 feet.
20 feet?
Yeah, at the most.
And man, he goes from left to right, just under Mach 1, and he gets to the end or the middle of the flight line, and it starts appearing.
Yeah.
And then I guess it depends. Does it depend on the condensity of the air as to when that goes and how much it stays? Because I've seen it several times, and sometimes it's just kind of like a flash.
It's a multivariable
Okay.
phenomenon. So that's how much humidity is in the air, what the temperature of the air is, the relative density of it, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then the contours of the plane is what it makes it happen.
Okay.
And so it can happen around different parts of the plane as it's getting to this picture where it's happening around the entire body of the plane. So it might start shedding off of the wing tips.
Yeah, you can see
the
that.
nose or whatever. But yeah.
You can see it. Well, a good photographer and one that has some experience in this event will look for this a long time before it comes. So I'm looking for that plane. I know it's coming. I'm looking for it, and I've got it before it's even coming down the flight line. And I'm waiting, and as soon as I see white coming off anywhere on the plane, I'll go, brrrr, and I'll follow it. And boy, that sounds like it's easy, doesn't it?
Right.
I've done that several times, and I really haven't had the equipment to
Well,
to
it's
get.
because this phenomenon flashes
Yes, yeah.
before it becomes constant.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. The first time I
It's
got
only there for an instant.
it's only there for an instant, and even if you're shooting in burst mode, you can miss it. But anyway, I was glad just to get the content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make that a goal. So anyway, that's proof of the stuff I've been talking about. I guess, Josh. It's Chris is into photography also. It's really what we like to do in Photography Club is talk about how we can use this passion, because it has to be a passion, because it's got to be something that you spend a lot of time with if you want to get better. It's like anything else. But what we like to do is think about how we can use this gift or this desire to serve people.
Right.
In the church, outside of the church, just as a ministry, how can we use photography to serve God? And what I've done lately is expand that as well. I'd like to make some money doing this, because I like to eat at least every other day. Donna, for some reason, every day. That girl's got to eat every day.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Anyway, I'm just trying. So I started Photos by Destry, and just that's what we're doing this year. Goal is in 2025 is to make more money than I did last year at it, and
Right.
and on and on. So, but without missing it being a ministry as well. So that's everything I got, Josh.
Okay. Well, I
All
think
I've been doing, Chris.
I think it's relevant that we've been talking about pictures and photography and stuff, because what we're talking about in the Bible study portion of this is several pictures that are painted for us throughout Scripture.
Yeah.
So-
Boy, Bible's a great picture painter.
Absolutely.
Man, oh, man.
If you're aware of it.
Yes,
There are a
right.
lot of times when you can read past something and you don't realize what you're reading, and you miss something really, really profound. And today's an example of that. So, when we first started this as the Deep Dive podcast, our goal was to take the Sunday morning sermons and expound on them.
Right.
Because there's limited amount of time on Sunday mornings.
About an hour, 45 minutes, whatever.
Right, and so you're limited as to the depth of how you can develop a topic in a format like that. So
Right.
our thing was, well, let's take the Sunday morning service and use that as sort of a catapult into a personal weekly Bible study.
Yeah.
And then we started to realize, well, if you're not here to see the Sunday morning service, is it going to isolate some people or we didn't want to make it to where you have to be here Sunday if you want to understand what's going on
Right.
in the podcast. So we still do the same thing. We just don't often link it to the Sunday morning service.
Right. That's true.
And today is an example of that, because what we're talking about is this concept of the church. And we this past Sunday, our pastor, he was talking about God's family worldwide, and he talked about a missions trip he went to and how
To Africa.
to Africa, how the local church here was giving of its time and its resources to go help a church on the other side of the planet, and was contrasting the ideas of the local church and the global church and all this kind of stuff. And so I thought it'd be cool to sort of look into Scripture and see, at least in part, how this idea of the church got developed. And I want to do it in a way that probably most people aren't familiar with doing, because we don't often relate these concepts. But I want to start with looking at the throne of God in heaven, like the throne room of the universe, so to speak. And we get glimpses of that throughout Scripture, and it's interesting as we go through those different glimpses how an element will be added to it or whatever as time goes on. And there's no small, insignificant detail in Scripture, and this is no exception to that.
Although there seems to be, though. You know
Right,
what I
there
mean?
seems to
but
be,
it's all part of something
but when
else.
when you start digging into them, you're like, oh, there's actually a really profound element to this small detail. And this is one of those examples. So in Isaiah, we're given a glimpse of the throne room of God. And Isaiah was one of the major prophets. That word major just means the book is large. Doesn't mean that he's more important than the minor prophets. Just means he wrote more. But he was prophesying to the southern kingdom of Judah. And in Isaiah 6, we get 4 verses that describe heaven, where God is. It says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, with twain he covered his feet, with twain he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. So one of the things that we have to realize in the Old Testament, well, actually all through Scripture, is there's usually something that is the real version of something, and then there's another thing that's set up to be sort of like a scaled mock-up of that thing.
Okay.
And heaven is one of those. The throne of God is one of those. We have the actual throne of God in heaven, but then on earth, we have models of it. We have like the Garden of Eden. We have the tabernacle. We have the temple.
Right, okay.
Those types of things, which are, the Garden of Eden is, that's where the presence of God dwelled. That's where the image of God also dwelled. Man was created in God's image, and that's where the two fellowshipped. And when man sinned, he was no longer allowed into that inner garden where the presence of God dwelled. There were two cherubims that were placed at the entrance, and that separated God. That separated God from man because of the sin that we had done. And you see that theme reflected in the tabernacle. You have the most holy place where the presence of God dwells, and mankind was restricted from accessing that. And at the veil between that and the rest of the world were images of 2 cherubim, reflecting here again what happened in the Garden of Eden. And then only one time a year on the Day of Atonement, the high priest was able to go in to that place, atone for the sins of Israel, and come back out and to do it, the next year. But there were processes by which that high priest had to do, had to become able to perform that. And so all that stuff is keep in the back of your mind. So here in Isaiah, we have a glimpse of this throne where God is and these creatures that are around it. Ezekiel, another prophet to the kingdom of Judah, this was during the Babylonian captivity. So Assyria had already conquered the northern kingdom of Israel a couple hundred years prior. Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar had just conquered the southern kingdom of Judah just a few years ago. And here Ezekiel is standing on the banks of a river near Babylon as one of the captives, and God shows him this vision of God's throne, kind of like going across the landscape. It's trucking, it's traveling, and
Like a Blue Angel pilot.
right, like a Blue Angel pilot, right? And he gives these descriptions. This is in Ezekiel 1. So this isn't looking into heaven, but this is looking at God's throne on the move, here on earth. And we're not told in Ezekiel 1 why it's moving. That doesn't come around till Ezekiel 10. But
One of those facts that you just go by. Well, that's interesting. Okay.
yeah, because if you don't know what's happening, you don't know that Ezekiel's standing on the bank of a river and he sees what, for all intents and purposes, is someone important being carried on a chariot across the way, just something like that.
Is that my cousin Bob?
Right.
Did you see that? Did y'all see that?
Yeah.
Bob, come here.
So it says, I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and fire enfolding itself. And the brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. And out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. And everyone had 4 faces. Everyone had 4 wings. Their feet were straight. The sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot. They sparkled like brass. They had hands of a man under their wings and 4 sides, and they had 4 of their faces on their wings. And so we're getting a little bit more detailed description, not just of the throne itself, but of the creatures that were around the throne.
Josh,
Yes.
this reminds me of a Saturday night in college I had one night.
Yes,
Sitting around the dorm room, man, I had all those visions.
right. Different reason for the vision.
I wasn't reading the Bible. Anyway,
So
I digress. Part of my testimony, man.
So verse 10, it says, it talks about the likeness of their faces. They had the face of a man, a lion, the ox, and an eagle. And it says, this was on the front, on the left, on the right, and on the rear. And it says, they went, everyone straight forward where the Spirit was to go, they went, and they turned not when they went. This is kind of a funny description because, like, if you have 4 faces on, one on each side, then no matter where you're going, you're always going forward, right? That's basically what it says. Like,
Or backwards.
yeah,
Or sideways.
wherever the Spirit was to go, they went. They turned not when they went. So it's like, turn left, okay, and so.
Got eyes on the back of my head, getting a whole new
Exactly.
whole new meaning.
And it also describes not just the creatures, but this mobile platform that they were transporting and what was on this platform. So on this platform was a throne. It was the presence of God. And this platform itself, it says, verse 16, the appearance of the wheels, and their work was like the color of beryl. They 4 had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of the wheel. And a lot of people love this verse in Ezekiel because they're like, this had to have been a UFO, a wheel of any wheel or whatever. It's talking about the wheels that were under the throne, like it was rolling, and it was being transported by these cherubim. And so this is like the mobile throne of God. He's being transported, and we find out in Ezekiel 10 why he's being transported. The presence of God was in the temple back in Jerusalem, but Jeremiah and Ezekiel, they were contemporaries of each other. Jeremiah was in Jerusalem warning them of the idolatry that was going on in the temple, and Ezekiel was witnessing the presence of God leaving the temple. And so when he was standing on the banks of the river and he sees God rushing by like this huge fire, and then out of this fire comes these four creatures pulling this chariot with this throne on it and the presence on the throne. That's God leaving the temple, because God's not going to occupy a place where that is meant for worship of him,
Right.
when his people are building pagan idols in that very building and worshiping those pagan idols in his presence.
Can't worship 2 gods.
Right, you can't do that. And so God's presence left the temple. And Ezekiel 10 even describes what what it looked like when God's presence left the temple. That throne shows up with the four creatures. It's on the wheels or whatever, and God's presence leaves the threshold of the temple, sits on that throne, and the creatures lift off.
What a visual, man.
I know,
what
right?
What a visual. Daggone.
And
I'd like to get a picture of that.
I know it would be so cool. Well, so that was that was Ezekiel. Later on in Acts, we're given. So that was a picture of not the throne of God in heaven, but the throne of God, like the mobile throne of God, traveling across the earth. Right.
Right.
In Acts, we get this is when the first martyr that we know of, Stephen, was killed. In Acts 7, it says that at the moment of his death, he looked up. He says, "Behold, I see the heavens opened, and the Son of Man standing on the right hand of God." This is a new detail that wasn't in the original one, because in the original one it was God surrounded with four creatures, sitting on a throne, all this stuff. Now we have this new detail of Christ, the Son of Man, standing on the right hand of God. And this is some important imagery, because this goes back to the imagery of the tabernacle and the temple, where you have the Ark of the Covenant, you have the mercy seat on top of that, and you have the presence of God sitting on that mercy seat. And once a year, you see the high priest going in, standing next to the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat, interceding for and advocating on behalf of Israel for the atonement of their sins. And we know from Hebrews and from all the other explanations in the New Testament, that was a picture of Christ, because Hebrews said, that high priest went in once a year to intercede for the sins of Israel, but that was a picture of the permanent sacrifice and the permanent presence that Christ was going to be next to the throne, interceding for the sins of mankind. And so it's interesting how Stephen, this is shortly after the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, his ascension, all that stuff, where now Christ is standing next to the throne, constantly interceding for us, like Hebrews tells us, that he's constantly in this, in the temple that was made without hands, is how Hebrews puts it. The presence of God, where the presence of God dwells in heaven, that's the true temple that all these other things were a model of. And Christ, our high priest, stands there forever interceding for us. And so Stephen sees this. This is a glimpse of a post-crucifixion, resurrection temple in heaven. So then we get to Revelation. In our gun club on Wednesday nights, we're going through Revelation right now, and we talked about this. There's another glimpse of heaven, and another thing shows up. This is Revelation 4. It says, after this I looked, this is John writing about his vision. After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, "Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter." And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven. So here we're starting to get that same vision again. There's a throne in heaven. Verse 3, there is a person sitting on it. That's the presence of God. Verse 4, around the throne, and here's a new detail, there's now 24 elders standing around the throne. So who are they? We'll get to that in a second. Verse 6, it talks about those four beasts again, which we've been reading about for a couple thousand years. And it talks about their what they look like again, the four faces. And then Revelation 5, we see again that Christ is mentioned being near the throne, except we're given a little bit more details about his identity. It says, a lamb as it had been slain. And this is right before we're presented with this book of seals out of the judgments on the world. And only this entity, this lamb that had been slain, that's standing there in the midst of the throne and the 24 elders, he's the only one that's deserving to open this book of seals, this book of judgments. Well, excuse me, these 24 elders, this is verse 9 of Revelation 5, we're given a little bit of insight into who these elders represent. Because remember, these elders, this is a new element that we haven't seen before.
Right.
They sung a new song, saying, "Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation." That's different than just Israel. Because Israel is not every
Right.
kindred and tongue and people and nation.
We're talking about everybody now.
This is everybody. Who out of everybody has been redeemed by the blood of Christ? We have.
Yeah.
The church, right? The people who have accepted Christ as their Savior, put their faith in the redeeming work that Christ did on the cross, shedding His blood, taking the punishment for our sins. That's who's redeemed, and that's who these 24 elders represent. So now now that we know who these 24 elders are, I want to go way back and talk about this one detail of the temple that Solomon built. Because remember, so in Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Solomon, he says that there's nothing new under the sun, and a lot of times we use that to show all the bad stuff that's happening and all the ideologies and stuff of the day, that they're not new, they're just recycled ideas. But there's more to it than that. There's also nothing new under the sun as far as what God's plan is, because it's always been His plan.
Always the same.
And this is no different. So we have the Garden of Eden, which is sort of like that first tabernacle, quote unquote, where you have that inner holy of holies. It's called the garden, where the presence of God is and where the image of God is. And then you have the tabernacle, which has the most holy place where the presence of God is and where the high priest goes into every now and then. But also outside the tabernacle, there's these families from the tribe of Levi that are responsible for the upkeep and the transportation of this temporary tent structure, the tabernacle. Some take the tapestries, some take the artifacts in the tabernacle, some takes the sticks and the bars and all that kind of stuff, and they transport them, and that was their job. Well, later on during David's reign, after David got done building his own house, he realized that all throughout the time of halfway through Joshua and through the time of the judges, that tabernacle was still there, but there was no need for it to move anymore. It had been in a town called Shiloh for hundreds of years, and had really fallen into disrepair. And after David built his house, he realized, he's like, I have a house, but God's still dwelling in a tent. We need to fix that. And so, God told David, he's like, well, I like where you're going with this, but you're sort of a wartime king, so your son is going to build me my house. So David said, okay, well, I'm going to acquire all the materials. I'm going to get the plans drawn up, get the specifications, get the permits, all that kind of stuff.
Call up Josh.
Yeah.
Get the engineering going.
Right, yeah. Dig the stormwater ponds, prep the foundation, all that kind of stuff. But
Huber Engineering, everybody, give them a call.
And so part of that was solving sort of some of the logistical stuff, well, now that we don't need to move this tent anymore, you can't move a permanent building. What do we do with all these families who are tasked with this stuff? And so they reassigned them to different practices of the temple, whether it's keeping the grounds or being musicians or all this kind of stuff. But then there's another component of it, which was the family of Aaron, who was the first high priest. His sons, the high priest followed down through his lineage. So his son was the high priest, his son was the high priest, and so on. Right. But all the other sons, all the other lineage of that, they became not the high priest, but the I guess regular priests, I guess you could say. But and as families are known to do, they get larger and larger and larger. So you get to a point where the temple's crowded, and David planned for that. And so in looking at the family of Aaron and all of his sons that were the priests who were doing the sacrifices or cleaning stuff or offering incense or just all the different things that go on with the temple. He said we need to split these up into shifts, and these shifts, he said, these will be the courses that each one will have a certain amount of time per year, and then they'll go off, and then they'll come back on. They'll go off to come back on, and we'll just cycle through these courses, and there'll be 24 courses throughout the year, and these courses are the ones that are going to do all this stuff. They're going to be the ones that occupy around the quote unquote throne, where the presence of God dwells, and tending to all of that stuff. And so that's important, because as we start seeing the throne of God in heaven evolve over the course of all the Scripture, we start to see these different components being added. We see first it's God's presence, then we see there's God's presence on the throne, and then Christ is standing next to him, interceding for us. And then we see in Revelation, it's not just Christ that's in the throne, but there's also these 24 elders that are around the throne that are the redeemed, those who are redeemed by the blood of Christ. And that picture was set way thousands of years earlier in the temple, because there were these 24 courses around the throne that were maintaining the different parts of the temple and the practices of the temple. And so what I think is really cool about that is we're talking about the church and who is the church. And sometimes we hear people talk about like the church replacing Israel, or Israel disobeyed so much that God's like, forget you guys, I'm going to go with the church now. And nothing could be further from the truth. God still has a plan for Israel. Israel has never been kicked out, but the church has been, to use vocabulary from Scripture, grafted in, so to speak, right? But what I think is cool is I'm not Jewish, so I'm not part of that original tradition of the temple and the camps around Israel and all that kind of stuff. I'm a Gentile who was bought and redeemed to God by the blood of Christ. And so those 24 elders represent me. But it's really comforting to know that before that even existed, there was a picture in the temple of these 24 courses that represented me. And so even before all of that stuff happened in the New Testament, that paved the way for the birth and growth of the church, the bride of Christ, he already had me in mind.
That was a plan all along.
Back in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
There's an allusion to that, a foreshadowing of there's more coming.
Nice.
I think that's really cool.
That is really cool. Comforting again. Not that we
Yeah.
need more comforting, but we always do, don't we?
Yes.
We need more confirmation all the time, and the Bible is filled up with it if you
Yep.
know where to look and spend the time studying it, or listen to the Deep Dive podcast.
Right. So,
One of the
very
two.
long and arduous path to that conclusion, but I think it's really fascinating.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh. Again, man, I love the way that God allows you to teach and bring these things to us in a picture that's clear. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Chris, thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next week. Thanks.
you